Gerald, I have to know the first question that everybody wants to know. Maybe it's just me. What do you drink in the morning? Because the amount of energy that you have on a daily basis, all through the, I don't get it.
Yeah. So, brother, what's happening? I will tell you. As I've gotten older, I was never a coffee person. When I was growing up, I always make the joke, right? The people that watch me on TV, I think about like the little old ladies, and I know we have younger people watching us, but when I first moved to Passepartout, it was a heavy, older crowd, and they'd be like, "Oh, I just love your energy every morning." And I'd sit there and I'd go, "Well, what did hey, I'm retired now. I used to be a school teacher." And I'm like, I don't know why I sound like Adam Sandler right now, but all that being said, I'd be like, well, I would have drove you crazy. So I've always been like high energy, kind of high strung. I didn't ever wanted to get into television, and it just honestly ended up working out, some connections, some friends. And now here we are 11 years into my TV career. And one of my biggest compliments I get all the time is my energy. And I tell people now the 3 things that really kind of do it for me. I try to get at least 7 hours of sleep. So I should say 4, but sleep being that top one. I try to get at least 7 hours of sleep. I have 1 cup of coffee. That's it in the morning. I do Passepartout, which is real easy to wake up and do a morning show live, because it's like, hey, bro, you got to bring the juice, man. You know what I'm saying? So you got to bring it. That's my job, is to bring energy to the airwaves of Acadiana on KLFY News 10. And then something I try to do every morning is kind of hit a daily mass. And depending on the mass or who's doing mass, right? Which priest or pastor's doing mass. A part that I love is that hallelujah. Hallelujah, bruh. I don't know what I'm like. Oh, I just got hyped now, dude.
Yeah.
So some music selections help as well. But I would say in the last 2 years, that has been something that those 3 things for sure get me going. But putting on some old school Wayne stuff like that. But really, coffee, a daily mass, and I love the cold plunge at Reds, Chaz. What brother?
Yeah. Well, we're here, of course, with Gerald Gruenig, who is Acadiana's favorite TV personality, prolific on social media, foodie, awesome guy. And we just found out that his intro song is Hallelujah. Right?
Cue Mackenzie Borg, right? Hallelujah. No, but that kind of chanting back and forth with the congregation and from I don't know. It just gets me fired up. I don't know why. Maybe I'm the only one, but it gets me juiced, bro, for sure.
So you are from New Orleans. You go to Nicholls State.
Yeah.
You play football. Mm-hmm. How did you get into TV?
So, bruh, crazy story. I'm actually my whole life. So I grew up in the hood, man. 5319 Franklin Avenue on top of the Po' Boy Bakery next to 2 24/7 gas stations. Baby, it was popping. You heard me? I'm telling you, bro. It was on.
This is your dad's?
My dad's spot, the Po' Boy Bakery. The person I'm named after is Gerald Gruenig, my dad's kind of father figure. My dad used to be called the kamikaze without a plane because he was blind in one eye and would hit parked cars on his newspaper route all the time. Totally a cancel culture name now, right? Like referencing kamikazes and all that. So my dad goes by Kaz.
Shout out Big Kaz.
Shout out to Big Kaz for sure. And, Kaz, and where I grew up, he was 12, 13 years old. He met Mr. Gerald Seeley, and then Mr. Jerry hired him. And then before you knew it, he was a co-owner of the business with Mr. Jerry, bought the apartment on top of the business from Mr. Jerry. And, that was the house I was raised in. So with that being said, my dad had a lot of people coming in and out of the restaurant because we weren't far from City Park, right? And City Park in the, 70s, 80s, 90s, the golf course, that's, and like a golf course now, it's a hang. So Frank Mackle was one of my dad's good friends. Travers and Fletcher Mackle are his twin sons that work on TV in New Orleans. We used to go to their Christmas party every year. Mr. Frank, Miss Judy. I just saw Miss Judy a few weeks ago. Loved them to death. Just went and visited Travers and Fletcher in New Orleans recently. And, so super tight with them. I'm working, before I interned with them, I'm working at the gold mine in the French Quarter, right? Just bouncing. My wife now is getting ready.
The gold mine.
The gold mine, baby. Man. Flaming Dr. Peppers, bro. People don't know. This whole thing started.
Lost a lot of brain cells there.
My television career, social media career, all of it started at the gold mine because I was bouncing. I got done playing football at Nicholls, waiting on my wife to finish her last year of school. I was still in school trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was probably going to coach high school or college for the year and work at the restaurant. Well, then Travers rolls up on me. He's like, "What's up, dude?" I'm like, what up, bro? How you been? Yada, yada, yada. He's like, well, why don't you come intern with us if you're getting a communications degree? I didn't plan on using it. I just didn't want to take college algebra. You know what I'm saying? It's true, bro. That 5-hour college algebra class is crazy.
I did the minimum math.
Yeah,
too.
you will never be able to make that make sense to me, bro.
Shout out business management. I think I had one algebra.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. I had a business degree going for the restaurant, and then they're like, hey, you have to go to lab Tuesdays and Thursdays for 2 hours, and you got to go to a math class Monday. I'm like, what? Man. So was either mass communications or general studies for the easiest math. And then here we are. So Travers hit me up, and he's like, bro, why don't you come intern? Because we ran into each other at the gold mine. And then, a few months later, I had my first TV job in Alexandria.
And then you ended up in Acadiana?
Yeah, so I worked in Alexandria. I always make the joke, I love Central Louisiana. I had a blast up there, dude. And I think anybody, while they're starting their profession, their first year, the people they work with, you're becoming an adult, you're figuring out how things kind of work. I had no idea. I grew up in the cash money business, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, my dad always paid me in cash. My scholarship checks from Nicholls never had taxes taken out. So I didn't know what taxes were, bro. I get my first TV job. They're paying me $25,000 a year. I'm like, that's 2 bands a month. We're going to be able to make that shake. Bro, when I got my first $700 paycheck and I had a rent house for $600 a month in the hood of Pineville, I'm like, whoa, we got to make some adjustments, man. So I lived in Alexandria for my first year. And then they had a sports opening pop up at KLFY in 2014. And, I jumped on it. Jeff Horchek, who's at News 15 now, and KLFY News 10's George Faust brought me in. And then, we made it happen. Yeah,
you don't do sports anymore, do you?
So a couple of years ago, I was still doing the Friday night 1st and 10 show, the Friday night football show we've done at KLFY.
Okay, I remember you now from the sports show.
Yeah.
You were clean shaven.
Oh,
you had your bright red hair.
Correct.
You look completely different now.
A little different now.
Yeah.
But that kind of comes with time, right? I think as things have changed within television and in general, but also too, it's like, I think as, things have continued to succeed on television and on social for me, it's like, but even now, just like things are constantly changing, bro.
Look at Michael Strahan. He started in sports.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now he's on everything, dude. He's on Fox. He's on ABC.
Yeah.
He's on. It's crazy.
It was a foot in the door, right?
Yeah,
it was your knowledge base at the time. It's what you felt most comfortable with, and then it was a foot in the door, and it led to other things.
Yeah, and then so I did sports for 2 years, but within my first 2 years at KLFY, I started Acadiana Eats, which then pivoted into...
You started Acadiana Eats.
Yeah. So I went to my bosses, Kenny Lawrence and Kyle Brinkman at the time. I said, hey, I want to do a food segment. They're like, I'm like, well, come on,
That's a cooking show once every month, right?
Well, there's just so much, there's so much going on. And we were at such a weird time for the television station because Channel 10 was the legacy station, right? We were longest running, the most tenure, if you will, but just trying to prioritize what people want to watch, right?
That's going to be inherently more conservative on their viewership.
Yeah, like,
less willing to try on new things.
Yeah, let's get back to doing, and I think they did a fantastic job from a management standpoint of just let's get back to doing the news. You know what I'm saying? Like let's put the train back on the tracks and let's just do a newscast the way everybody else is doing it, and then we can get back to adding our flavor and culture to our newscasts once we have this whole thing situated. Because for the longest time, KLFY was so culture based, I think it had kind of gotten a little hectic. Whereas they tightened up how we operate. And then we started inserting the cultural aspects of things. So they eventually came around, and then instead of me doing it during what was called a ratings period, they're like, no, let's do it every week. And then sure enough, they were the ones that really kind of saw the foresight to do it every week. And then it's turned into a monster, man, in the best way.
What was the first iteration of Acadiana Eats?
So this is actually, I know we're taping this in the fall of 2024. We're officially at 9 years of Acadiana Eats. Oh, I lie. Wait. 2024. Yeah, okay. We're officially at 9 years because it started in 15. I've been at Channel 10 for 10 years, so 14 was when I started at
Congratulations.
KLFY.
You made a decade.
Yeah, made a decade at KLFY, baby.
Carter, that's pretty good.
There's that Nicholls math working for Gerald.
Yeah, no doubt. As I'm learning, for sure. But because I've been in TV 11, I started at Channel 10 years ago.
That's help me out. That's a long time, right? With a station, is that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, especially these days. But, kudos to them for, and me, I think we've both done a really good job of growing together. And, I always hold Channel 10 in a super great light. You'll never hear me say anything bad about KLFY ever. They've been great to me. But they've also, I've been good to them. They've been good to me. It's just been a great mutual relationship.
That's awesome.
And I'm proud to be a member of that team. But Acadiana Eats, to your point, we shot it in August of 2015. And the first segment aired October 1st of 2015. We shot Acadiana Eats in August of 15. The first edition of Acadiana Eats at Pops Po' Boys aired October 1st of 2015.
That was your first episode
at Pops, yeah.
And what did it look like? What was the episode? I mean, you get out there with a camera?
Yeah, so John and I, Mr. Weatherall.
We couldn't book John.
Yeah.
We had to bring Gerald. He's up there with you, brother.
Oh, no, look, and that's it's been such a beautiful, friendship there, and we can get into the nitty-gritty with that.
I want to talk about John for sure.
Yeah, so John has been a huge blessing in my life, but John and I both went out on a food. I'm like, man, I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't
Bring
know
the
how
camera, John.
I don't know how we're going to put this together, but I know we got the approval to go shoot a couple of test episodes of Acadiana Eats. Let's see what this looks like. And then, I go back and watch them, and I'm like, oh, man, rough to watch. But like anything else, man, with reps, you get better.
Yeah.
Similar to this podcast.
Same.
You go watch the first one, you're like, man, we crushed it. Yeah. And then here you are, down the road, and you're like, bruh.
This is brutal.
Yeah, correct. But, but I always do love the people that have been rocking with us since the beginning, and it's been really cool to kind of see what it's all turned into.
And how has the show evolved over time? What was the original kind of concept? What did it get to now? I think it's a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, it's been a blessing. And I think what's cool about it is it's still very television-esque, right? Like, instead of me being, my like, I don't want to say natural self, because it is still me being natural, but it's like TV polished, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? Which is a thing, I don't know if that's the technical term for it, but one of the things that got me excited about social media when video started to take over was like, oh man, I can put on some cash money on it and wear my hats and I can be myself, so to speak, because it's not part of this bigger like corporate television, which isn't a problem. I love my company, I love my station, but there are certain expectations of what things need to look like on air, as there should be.
Right.
You know
so
what I mean?
I wear a hoodie and when I'm doing a legal clip on a podcast or at home or in the office, but I don't wear that to court.
Exactly.
Right.
Perfect example. So so John and I roll up, we go to Pops, and then had no idea what it was going to look like, had no idea what that would be, but I just knew we could get to the point where we could showcase local restaurants, because that's what called to me. Was never a success standpoint, a financial standpoint. Oh, one day this is going to have this amount of sponsors and I'm going to be able to raise my family here. And never was a thought. It was just like, hey, why don't we do a food segment spotlighting all these local restaurants and all this great food that we have in our community? Why is nobody doing that? It's crazy to think that at the time, the other television stations, nobody was doing it, and we were the cultural station for decades, forever. It's what we were known for. Why weren't we doing it? So the format itself is still pretty similar. You know what I'm saying? Like, located on Jefferson Street in downtown Lafayette,
right.
Soundbite of Colin Cormier. Like, we've been open since March of 2014. It's like, the home of Pops Po' Boys. We sell New Orleans style po' boys with a Cajun twist. You know, Pops Po' Boys, like, dude, I've seen the same clip similar to Adam Richman kind of scripting out Man versus Food. But I mean, once you catch a formula that works,
it's a good formula.
Yeah, let's roll. Right. So, so the format itself has changed a little bit because we've had to make it a little tighter, because people's attention spans are obviously shrinking, which, depending on how you deliver your information, can be a good or a bad thing. But we first started the segment, it was like 3 minutes. Now I can get it anywhere from like 1:55 to 2 minutes. So a lot of that is like, instead of you and I talking on camera, it's just you talking on camera and just me talking on camera. And then it makes it easier for me to edit too, because what people don't realize, John shoots that video, then it's like, here you go, Gerald. Whoop.
Wow.
And I edit it, write it, track it, do everything, but it's also another beautiful skill that you get to learn working in TV as long as you do, and so.
When did you start pushing social media? How was that evolution
and
transition?
So I had no interest in social media ever. You know, in fact, the television station, you know, at times would be like, hey, why don't you post pictures of the food you're eating? Why don't you, you know, and
on your personal account or
on my, even because I had a work Facebook page at the time, right? And we had an Acadiana Eats Instagram where I was just posting pictures. And then in 2021, when I saw the shift kind of happen, and I'll tell you, you know I gave John some love, always do, but John had actually grown a haunted attraction, right, to insane numbers in a short amount of time on TikTok and Instagram. And I'm going like, man, dude, if what you're doing just because you like to do it is doing that, I just feel like this is a space we need to be in.
Was this before he went viral on
Correct.
Mardi Gras?
So John was not growing his own pages. He would post stuff on his Facebook from time to time. He had an Instagram. Before the Kevin Gates video dropped a couple of years ago, I think John was at like 8,000 or 9,000 followers on, that was what, 2-3 years ago now. So, you know, now he's at like 2+ or 200+. And then, so what I'm saying is like there was a focus there, but John was like a very busy wedding photographer. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it was like the Mardi Gras stuff and filming everything was just kind of a hobby. Whereas like with me, I've always loved what I do at the television station, but I always have felt like, man, you know, what can I do where I can, you know, what's cool about local TV is like you really get to get invested into your community. But the tough part is like, you know, I kind of felt like trapped by our 8 parishes. But I lived in Thibodaux. I lived in New Orleans. I lived on the north. Like, I've lived all over the state. I lived in Alexandria. And the beautiful part about Lafayette is that you're an hour and a half to 2 hours to every portion of the state. You know what I mean? 3 hours North Louisiana. But, you know, so seeing what John did with his numbers and knowing my personality, I didn't know what that looked like. But I'm like, man, you know what? I think if you've got the knack or if you've seen what works and we get to see what works and you and I both have the ability, we both need to start kind of pouring into this, because something that, you know, is an unfortunate side of working in TV is that at times I'll tell you right now, Dwight Dugas and Kenny Lawrence, the 2 that hired me, love them to death. Kyle Brinkman, my news director at KLFY, love him to death. Fran McCrae, who then ended up being my GM after Kenny, love her to death. Michael Sipes, who's been my news director for almost 8 years now, that's my guy. And Chris Cook, who's my GM now, love him to death. All of them have been super gracious and given me plenty of opportunities within the television station to, you know, do my thing. And you know, the television station has got to also benefit as well as me. It's just been a great mutual relationship. However, that's a lot of names in 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So from the social side, you know, for me, it just felt like, hey, this is something that can be mine, that I can do, but it also works and doesn't step on toe. You know what I'm saying? It's just something that I feel like I need to be doing. And that's ultimately what it was. And then once I started, I quickly got to see, you know, like, man, you know, people are enjoying this. And I'm not talking just in Acadiana, because I knew everybody loved it here, or most people did. And I say it all the time. I feel so bad for the people that don't like me. Boy. Because I'm like, at times, I'm like, whether it's TV, the radio, my phone, I'm like, bro, that's a whole lot of Gerald, man. So, but that also motivates me a little bit too, because it's like, yeah, you don't like me? Here I am. You know what I'm saying?
So I know what appeals here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think someone in Des Moines, Iowa, or Fairbanks, Alaska, what do you think attracts them to your videos?
Yeah. So, you know, the things that drive people crazy at times are also like my biggest, I guess, pros or assets in my personality and who I am can also be my biggest, you know, faults. You know, I think we all can struggle with that, right? Like you can probably be really combative, you know what I mean? And argumentative and, you know, but it's like, hey, that's how you make a living, you know? So same kind of thing here. It's like, well,
I try to keep that lion on the leash.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like that dude does a lot. You know, or that guy's a lot. So I think depending on who you're talking to, the Bayou State as a whole is a national treasure. and people have always had a natural, like, what is going on over there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You've seen it with the Saints Super Bowl run.
Correct.
You've seen it with LSU when
Correct.
LSU's doing well.
Correct.
You see it with some of the local athletes.
Yeah.
Something Keon Coleman just recently with the Buffalo Bills. Like his candid interviews and the
Correct.
way he became a fan favorite before he even caught a touchdown pass. Like,
Yeah.
I agree with you. There's something about the people here that magnetizes others, right?
And that's what's been so cool. You know, to your point, all of those bosses that I just mentioned at KLFY, I don't think any of them wanted to leave. You know what I mean? I think within the scope of bettering your family's lives and other opportunities, you got to do it. But every single person I just rattled off that has helped me in my television career and helped me grow as a person, dude, they didn't want to leave. They loved it here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, as messed up as this state is as a whole, it's...
And we could give you a list.
Oh,
we
man.
could give you a list.
What?
It's been well documented.
It is still very much a cool place to live.
Yeah.
And I think people, there's a natural attraction to it. And I think what's been really unique in the success that we've had on social has been, and the success that I've had on television is, you know, and I don't say this to sound arrogant, but if you think you can find somebody that grew up like me, it's going to be tough. Because I grew up in the hood of New Orleans I grew up where I grew up in New Orleans, on top of my family's po' boy restaurant, across the street from a 24/7 gas station, catching a bus down into the Lafitte housing projects, and then playing baseball at Lakeview Playground with Billy and Tommy and going to Mass at St. Dominic. You know what I'm saying? And hanging out at the restaurant with the guys in the back and waking up in the mornings to the homeless dudes that clean my dad's restaurant for a case of Red Dogs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, what's up, Anthony? How you doing, Stutter? For real. Like, man, we'd have dudes off the street in my living room, bro. You know, like, hey, where's your dad at? I'm like, man, what you doing? They're like, next thing you know, he's rapping My Adidas by Run DMC. And I'm like, 12. And I'm like, what's up? Like, who is Stutter? I'm like, oh, that's the neighborhood alcoholic. You know what I mean? Like, he sleeps in the old post truck. And then Katrina hits, I end up on the North Shore. And then I'm running through the New Orleans East playing AAU basketball. Katrina hits, I'm ending up on the North Shore in the suburbs. I'm like, whoa, what is this? I feel like I'm living I'm rolling up to football games and I'm getting handed like a pizza with my number on it, bruh. And then Katrina hits, I'm in Bayou country. I mean, and then I get done with football on the North Shore, and then I'm in Thibodeau. And then I'm playing football at Nicholls. Like, what? I'm like, dude, you like Thibodeau? I'm like, yeah, I like everywhere I'm at. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then, so I spend time. Next thing you know, I'm bow fishing in Cutoff, Golden Meadow, Grand Isle. And then that happens. And then I get my first TV job from working in the French Quarter from a contact. And then I'm in Alexandria, Louisiana. And people are like, dude, what you doing up there? I'm like, bro, I'm having a blast.
You're like the culmination of the entire state of Louisiana.
Correct. So how that has all worked, and one of the things that I'm so proud of is, like, I can be in the most rural portions of our state, or I can be in the nitty gritty, like, rough parts of our state, and everybody's different type of love and admiration, but there still is a general, like, what's up, G? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my guy. And I feel eternally grateful and blessed to grow up how I grew up, because the impact I'm able to make and the relationships I've been able to form with all walks of life has been unbelievable.
Hey, it would mean the world to me if you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a 5-star review. It helps keep the show free, and it helps us book better guests to provide more valuable content to you. None of the opinions expressed by my guests are that of my own, and nothing we talked about creates an attorney-client relationship or could be construed as legal advice. Hope you enjoy the show.